Hey.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you guys?
We're well. We're good.
Yeah, lovely. So guys, this is Marriage UK. We are talking to you about the real issues when it comes to relationships. When we're talking about the journey of having relationships with yourself, with God, with other people, in marriage primarily. We're trying to help people navigate this journey. And I have with me today a lovely couple who've been married for, I can't remember.
4 years.
4 years.
4 years, man. 4 years. And look, you see how they're smiling? It means it's working. The smiling means it's working. So we have a great couple, actually more than just a great couple. They are also professionals, guys, in the field of, and you know what, actually, before I mess this up, I'm going to let you guys tell us what you do. But welcome to the Marriage UK. Please share this video. It really helps. Please like, please subscribe. It really does help. Other people need to know how to navigate this journey. We do something here that's not done often enough. We have discussions around people's personal narratives, people's journeys on this walk with life and God and so forth. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves because they can do it better than I can. Go ahead.
So my name's Michael. I am a counselor. So I work with married couples. I work with individuals as well. I also work with young people as well. And the approach that I use is psychodynamic and also systemic. And sometimes also when working with young people, that's within the field of emotional health and well-being, substance misuse, and sexual health as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot. That's like carrying a whole world, man.
Well, someone's got to carry it, and there's it's not only on my shoulders. It's a team. It's a team of us. So yeah.
All right. Thank you.
And I'm Stephanie, and I'm a clinical psychologist. And so in my day job, so at the moment I'm actually on maternity leave, but my day job prior to that was working in child and adolescent mental health. But I have experience working with adults, families, older adults and learning disabilities, kind of a mixed bag. And again, kind of similar to my husband, I work from psychodynamically informed thinking, systemic thinking, and cognitive behavioral therapy. And together as a collective, we are Sewell Being.
Yeah.
So our last name is Sewell, so we're Sewell Being, and I guess
a lot. I get it.
Yeah. I guess we felt that a lot of in our practice, we noticed that actually sometimes you have couples who might have emotional difficulties, or I have people with emotional difficulties that are having relational issues. So we've combined to create a service. But I'm currently on mat leave, but Mike's heading off on that at the moment.
Yeah.
Lovely. What else have you got going on? Did you forget to mention?
Exactly, because I'm on mat leave, kind of hinted to it. We've got a beautiful baby boy. He's 8 months old. He definitely keeps us on our toes.
Yep.
He's a bundle of joy. At the moment, he's settled, so you might hear him, but it's all good. We have my mum on standby, helping us out too.
Right, lovely. And this is it now. I think you might have a YouTube channel. I might be right on that.
Yes. So again, one of the things that I have seen in practice, how important and helpful it is to do relaxation. So I have started a little YouTube channel. Maybe I can link it later on, but it's called Relaxation and Reflection. So check it out if you would like to see, try out some relaxation, but with a spiritual twist to it.
Yeah.
Ooh. We're gonna have to put that one in. Remind me at the end. We'll stick that one in. We have to know. Yeah. Welcome to you all again. Thank you for subscribing and sharing and so forth.
Thank you for having me.
Today the topic is marriage gonna make you happy. I didn't know how to word this one. It was like, marriage will make you happy. Yeah, right. Maybe. Does marriage make you happy? Before we go into that though, you're married for 4 years. Can you give us a snapshot, like a sentence, paragraph as to how it's been for you?
It's been, joyful, It's been amazing. It's been, I guess, beyond expectations. But it's also been a journey as well.
I guess my sentence would be, it's probably been a bit of a roller coaster for many different reasons, and maybe we'll touch on some of it today. But yeah, I can say marriage is sweet.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear. So you've been married 4 years. You have an 8-month-old, and all I want to say to you right now is wait till he turns 2. You know, that's when you realize that you had it easy at 8 months. But then it might not be your God might not give that to you. He gives it to everybody else. He might not give that to you. But
we're up for the challenge, you know. We're up for the challenge.
Yeah.
So.
Of course. And the thing is, you're gonna be like, why did we do this? And then still have another one. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be like that.
But yeah, I thank you. So here we go, right? I remember, and I've mentioned this so many times, I remember I had a plan for how I would think, how I would feel, how I would act when I was dating Juanita. Even before, I'm like, you know, when you look at your parents and you think, I can do a better job. I don't know, something like that. You know, and the thing is, you know, I'm very open about, or fairly open about my parents in that, you know, my dad is still alive, so I have to be careful how I talk, but he knows where I'm coming from in that, you know, our parents didn't really have the best blueprint, especially as Black people. We're coming from a slightly different place, and I'm the child of a parent who was born in the mid-50s, mid-1950s, and so our parents didn't get a good start. They were born on their back foot. They went into relationships on their back foot. And I've seen that. I've grown in it. So I said, no, I'm going to do it differently. I've seen James Bond do it. I've read a couple of novels. I've seen all the movies. I'm going to take a bit from everybody else, and I'm going to have this kind of marriage. And this is how I'm going to respond. This is who she's going to be. This is what I'm going to do.
Okay, so you're saying it. This is what happens to people.
Why do you do this? Why the delusion?
I think there's a hope for many of us to be married, but at the same time, depending on our surroundings, depending on our parents or our guardians, how we've grown up, we depend on whether we want to take that leap or not. So I think definitely, as you mentioned about, you know, either your parents or what you see on TV, social media, etc., you kind of makes you wonder, is this something that, you know, I want to do?
And some people get burnt the other way. But, you know, hormones were raging. I had hopes and aspirations, and the script was flipped. Yeah, all of that. I had a list, and I'm going to burn the list. But you know, you guys are professionals. What are you seeing? Let's start there. Let's start there nicely. What are you seeing in your professions? You are both counselors, practicing mental health workers. I don't know how to frame it. You'll frame it better than me. But you're there with the people, and you're working with people in relationships. What are you seeing that maybe the classic mistakes or the good, the bad, the ugly? What are you seeing commonly? Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think you've already kind of started highlighting there. It's about people's expectations, what they expected it to look like. You know, and you're saying there about you watch all the movies, you know, as a girl, as a young person, as a young adult, you had all the fairy tale rom-coms, fairy tale stories, and there was happily ever after. They got married and it was happily ever after. And I think that is actually somewhat embedded into our societal thinking around getting married and settling down, that, you know, we'll get to this pinnacle moment and that's it, happily ever after. And actually we don't get to, I think maybe there needs to be more conversations around, or understanding, like we're doing today, thinking around what happens afterwards, you know, because what we see both in our clinical practice, but also people we know, people we come across in the community for various different reasons, is that it's a real shock to the system when they get married. You know, it's a real shock to the system when they get married, and it's because it wasn't what they expected for various different reasons, you know. Like one of the common ones I'm thinking of is living with each other. So if it's the first time they're going to live with each other, like coming across, you're smiling hard, living with each other, you know, just expecting it to be one way, and in reality you're dealing with, I don't know, maybe on a woman's perspective socks, on a man's perspective, you know, maybe being asked to do so many things, and it's a real shock to the system. They, you know, I think a lot of people end up meeting the real version of each other once they've said I do.
Yeah.
Wow. Michael, what are you seeing a lot?
I think for me, people looking at short term rather than long term. And I think when you're going through that stage of dating, you really need to understand each other's long-term plan as well as their short-term plan. And I don't think there's as much conversation around that there need to be. So I think when I see couples in the counseling room, I think that they're kind of overwhelmed by how, you know, again, lack of expectation, how overwhelmed the situation is. Exactly, you know, especially when kids are involved, when you're mentioning issues with the in-laws and communication difficulties and cultures and tradition and values and you know, from a religious background, whether one is religious, whether someone else isn't, there are all these things that's happening, but the conversation may not be had at the length that it should have been had. Yeah.
That sounds like people are not talking.
Yeah.
They're not talking, are they? And it sounds like there's a little bit of a honeymoon kind of fairy tale going on. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Let me take it away. Tell me. I'm just guessing from what you're saying.
No, exactly that. And just kind of, you know, you alluded earlier to some statistics. Research shows that. I mean, I think about maybe 10 years ago, over a decade ago, it used to say that, you know, married people were happier than single people. But actually now it's looked into a bit more depth. It's actually realizing that is the short-term impact. But actually longer term, you kind of go back to the way you were before you got married. So it gives you a boost, but it's not enough. Getting married isn't enough to sustain you to stay happy. You know, it's a part of what can contribute to your happiness, but it isn't what will make you happy.
Yeah.
You know, and a part of that is that people aren't talking about things prior to or enough while they're in it to be able to navigate it, to have the tools to now actually make it a happy marriage. You know, and dare I say it, for some people, they are in a marriage that's unhappy, and it's not even just not making them happy, it's making them miserable.
The difference between happiness and misery. There's a difference. That's interesting you say that, because you've differentiated being unhappy and being miserable.
And I guess kind of why I probably make that differentiation is because when I think about happy, the way I make sense of it, it's a state of being, and you can have a mixture of feelings along that trajectory. You know, you can have happiness, sadness, but miserable, you know, or kind of feeling really, really in a bad place is kind of that longer term feeling, I would say.
Man. So one of the things, so we're looking at expectation, short-term thinking. This is just the top three, and not talking enough beforehand.
Yeah, I think you know, when we're looking for a partner and we end up finding someone, you know, it's a good feeling that someone's paying you attention. But at the same time, in the back of your mind, you should also be thinking about, you know, well, first of all, what are your own personal goals? Like, where do you want this relationship to go? You know, is it a long-term thing? Would you like to be married and kids, etc.? And I think that needs to be looked at in depth, one-on-one, you know, what you like. And then obviously when you're looking now for a potential partner, you kind of see whether they kind of match your values and what you would like going forward.
and not just how they look on their face or their body.
There we go. There we go.
You see, this is such a Western problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're so superficial.
Yeah.
We don't have. Oh man, it depends when you're born here, but we don't have enough culture to force us to look at other values, importance. And so what we do when we have all this freedom, we just go with the most carnal. This is my opinion, by the way, thing, and we just I like her, I love her, I love him because, and it's like, well, that's such a short-term way of looking at how to proceed. Because, like you said, it's like you need time to look at the in-laws. Now, I don't break up because of that.
But you need to be aware of the in-laws.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about it.
Well, yeah, for all. I mean, and I guess maybe we can share a bit about our situation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
but on a level, do you know what? I've got a funny feeling my dad will find this, but I love you, Dad. I do. I love you. But my dad isn't the easiest of people. So, you know, and Mike being aware of what he was marrying into had to be a real conversation. I think one of the things that was a blessing was our premarital counselling, because it really opened us to look at things more than we thought we needed to, but God made it that we did. So one of the first sessions we had with our pastor was, he also is therapeutically trained as well. But one of the first things he did was talking about leaving and cleaving. And that was a real thing that we had to really make sure we did, you know, because my dad is quite a forceful man, you know, in personality. He's strong in his opinions, and he's lived a fruitful life. He's got lots of wisdom, but he can be a bit, you know, much. Yeah. And so it was just really important to address that. And you know, sometimes there has been difficulties as a result of that, but because we were aware of it, Mike, you probably need to speak more to this because you know you were coming into it. But we were aware of it. I was aware. Yeah. Of the person.
I mean, obviously, you know, it's obviously good that she kind of give me the heads up about, you know, kind of what family's like, etc.
I want to tell you about my dad.
But at the same time, my intentions were pure. My intentions were pure about where I wanted the relationship to go. I let him know exactly my feelings towards her, etc. And I think it was one Christmas where where we came together. I think we had the family round, and he, you know, we had that honest kind of conversation, and I kind of, you know, when you're at that moment where you kind of feel like you're being grilled.
Yep.
Yeah, you're being grilled, and again, you know, I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want it any other way. So, you know, because obviously that's his daughter, she's precious, etc. But, you know, after, you know, heated conversation, you know, I came out on the other side fine. So, yeah.
And I guess should be testing their child's, their own child. Every dad should be testing you like that. And that is just a really good thing. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, and I guess we're talking about maybe in a bit of light-hearted way about my dad, but there's some in-laws that you need to be aware of. You know, they may not be as accepting of you, they may of your spouse, or vice versa, of yourself, and they may have their own expectation as to what they wanted for their family. And it's a really important conversation to talk about how you're going to navigate the influences of your extended family, because they come with it wisdom. But you are your own family, you know, as well. And you can't always do as they would like. You know, you've got to do things by God's standard. You've got to do what's best for your immediate unit, you know. So
it's powerful that you say that, because I mean, I'm saying that so many, and in particular men who have been kept on the apron string, and you know, they're looking at their mother in the same place, and you know, as their wife, and that is for me a red flag when you're at the dating stage. Even in a marriage, I guess there's a red flag. Whereas the men need to learn to create their own culture and kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's between you and the wife. Like, we can't be negotiating it around family too much, because compromise is the name of the game. But it's the level of compromise, and some men are trying to keep their mom and their wife in the same place, and it should not be that way. I'm putting it out there that's the case. But I'd ask you, how long did you have premarital counseling?
Ooh.
It
was less than a year.
Yeah, it was. What?
It was less than a year.
Yeah, it was.
But it was quite long.
Yeah, it was staggered a little bit.
So something that we did, which is probably not your norm, we actually had premarital counselling before we got engaged.
What would you call that? Yeah, I get it. Premarital counselling.
Yeah, exactly.
That was really good.
Yeah. And I guess the reason why we ended up doing it that way is because I think sometimes when people get engaged, they may set a date and then it's like a countdown. So you've got to work all these things out before you get married. But then it kind of adds that pressure. So for us, we took that pressure off. We knew we were intentionally courting with the intention of marriage, but we didn't get engaged. We did our premarital counselling, and it enabled us to really get to know and talk about those difficult things. Because our actual engagement was then quite short. I think our engagement was 5 months.
Come on,
6 months, something like that. Yeah. But I mean, again, like, so you never know what's going to come out in counselling. You don't know what you're going to face. You just know that some stuff may come out, and be prepared to work for the relationship, to work for your partner, work for, understanding myself, understanding Steph, understanding this process. So it was an experience. It was something that we don't regret. It was something that we feel that all couples should do. Because at the end of the day, if you avoid premarital counsel or avoid certain particular subjects, eventually, which maybe you can talk on this as well, that it's going to come out in your marriage. There's no kind of avoiding it. Eventually, it's going to come out in one way or the other. So it's better to do it in a healthy environment, healthy platform, such as counselling.
I was of the mindset very recently that pre-counselling is the way for people who, and someone made a comment and brought it to my attention, because we just did premarital and it was just before the wedding, which I don't recommend. Some people can make it, but I don't recommend that. But what, especially in this age where it's just confusion and it's just so much volatility and perspectives and so I recommend pre-counseling. For you who just joined in, it means counseling before you're engaged. And the beauty of this, something so beautiful, guys. Then you had a short engagement.
That's it.
We did the work before.
Yeah, we did the work before. And again, we knew what we wanted. We had those conversations. We went to the same church. We didn't live too far from each other, so it allowed us to travel, to meet up, to talk, etc., to understand each other better, rather than those who have kind of long distance relationship. So it just helps.
I'm telling you, that's the way. And you know what was good as well? You said you had a pastor who was educated in the field of counselling.
Yeah.
And he put us through our paces, I ain't gonna lie.
And that was you, would you say that was fair of him?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of alluded to it, but one of the things that I think was really helpful and that we talked about, people don't talk enough, is I think when people are coming together, they're looking at the values which are important, the core values. They're looking at what they have in common. They're looking at what they like about each other and what they get on. But it leaves them blind to their differences. It creates them to have a blind spot to the differences between them. And so then when you now get married, you're kind of thrusted to just now noticing even the small differences that can create, kind of escalate to big conflict, you know. Like when we were early on in our marriage, we enjoy talking with couples, just generally, not just in our practice. But one of the things we will notice when we were talking to couples was this really small anecdote, but how many people could relate to it, which was dishes.
Yeah.
Which was dishes in the sink. Yes, you're laughing. Yes, you're small as this. Dishes in the sink. And where it lived, whether when it's not washed, does it go inside the sink or does it go to the side? And you know,
that could be an argument, you know.
Yes,
yeah,
you see?
exactly. Yeah.
You see,
exactly.
And just as we were sharing that as just a lighthearted anecdotal thing about, you know, just to kind of show how important it is to talk about your differences and to kind of work through your differences. We were finding out how many people were noticing this same kind of interesting difference, you know.
Yeah.
And what we would then try and share with people is it was about understanding where each other was coming from.
Yeah.
It was about making sense of how we both arrived at those different perspectives and recognizing it wasn't wrong or right and right. It was just different. And actually, as you mentioned about culture for your family, we now have to come up with a new culture for our family. How is it going to work? So we'd use that small, funny, light-hearted thing to kind of show the bigger kind of map to how you're supposed to navigate through differences. You know, I don't know, Mike, you can talk to a bit about how you do dishes and why it's that way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes, most of the things that I guess most things come from our upbringing, right? Or our household, etc. So in my household, my parents and also 3 siblings, so the 6 of us, you know, there can be a lot of dishes and whatnot, etc. And we will have different days that we need to wash up, etc. But I guess when throughout the day, you know, kind of you can just see it piling up, and it will pile up in the sink. So when I was to use the sink, obviously there's just a whole heap of plates there and dishes, etc., which can be sometimes frustrating. So therefore, I wanted to take the culture room in my. You know, you try to cook something and the dishes will pack up. So you're like, it just takes up more time. But so in my household, I wanted to make sure things were different. So therefore, I would kind of put things over to the side and just kind of pile them up. So it's, you know, cups to cups, plates to plates.
Makes sense, bro. It makes sense.
Leaving the sink clean for whoever wants to use it, can use it, etc. So yeah, we're coming from 2 different households, 2 different background, upbringing, etc. So yeah,
and for me, like I've got quite a few siblings, but I'm the youngest of the lot. So for a lot of the time, it was just me and my mum, and my mum's also of the culture of washing quite quickly. So for us, we liked a very clean counter, a very nice looking, clean, tidy kitchen. And so then having small amount of dishes in the sink was very, very doable, and actually was then what I was accustomed to and used to. I'm pleased to say that we did find a new way of working, which was putting it in the dishwasher. But it's just kind of a simpler way of kind of explaining how it is we can navigate through differences. You know, for the more larger things. So, for example, a larger, more character ones, because, you know, people might be thinking, well, it's just dishes, you know. But for the larger stuff, you know, like character differences, you know, Mike is somebody who can take his time, look at things in detail. I'm somebody who's like, you know, I'm a very quick person. I jump on things really quickly, and each have their merit, but each also have their drawbacks. So again, it's not about putting anything in right and wrong. It's about figuring out this is the difference, and actually what can we do to actually capitalize on our differences.
How can we use the difference to benefit the relationship? So every you know, talent and gift that we have, etc., what we're good at, can benefit the relationship. So how are we using it? And, you know, we're a team, we're one. So, you know, just keeping that at the forefront of our mind and making sure that's, you know, at the forefront of what we do. So going forward.
That's interesting. I'm going to come back to that. And in fact, I'm going to ask you before I come back to we're going to come back to more focus on the happiness, but I'm enjoying your narrative. But there's a question on the screen. This person, Marvin, cannot stand, he's a friend of mine. He can't stand to see dirty dishes and he can't tolerate it. No way. No. And here's another question, which we'll hopefully get to in a little while. What would you say to that? And please be frank.
Well, again, kind of, I'm sitting here kind of both holding my professional hat and my personal self. And I guess something that I would try to do is to try and understand, what is that about?
Yeah.
What is the not being able to tolerate it? Is it actually like it really can make me feel distressed, very frustrated? Or is it a preference that actually maybe we might need to work on looking at compromise? And if it was the former, then, which is actually one of the things that we were going to talk about today, that sometimes we might need to take some time to look at where these things come from and maybe work it out within ourselves so that it helps us then when we're now in a relationship or in our marriage, if we're currently in it, to then be able to work with it. So, you know, not saying this is for this Marvin, it stresses me out. Not saying this is for you, Marvin. But if it happened to be like it's more kind of looking at OCD, obsessive compulsive, struggling with it, then actually we might need to take some time to really work that out, because that can be a really entrenched difficulty that we actually might need to take some time to work that out, because it can have a real toll on your mental health. Whereas if it is a preference, like I said, it might stress you out. It's about maybe having to try and think about shifting how you might perceive it, and also perceive other person's difference, because and this is kind of like a more systemic thinking, is what we try to help couples and myself, families try to do, is to recognize that in our differences we can find common ground. So in our differences, in the person that you might be with, who might not be able to tolerate something else, you can then relate to that, and then maybe that builds understanding and tolerance of each other's difficulties with it. And that is what I would suggest. Personally, I'll let you talk first.
I would just say, look, I think it's important that both of you have an understanding of what's happening at each moment, no matter what it is. So this situation is dishes, so it stresses you out. So it depends on how you communicate that to your partner. If you are in a relationship, and you say it stresses you out, they may want to know a bit more about why it stresses you out. Where does that come from? Where did it initiate? Where did it origin from? What were your experiences previously of how it stressed you out and how it affected you? And when someone has a better, I guess, picture of where it's come from, it makes it more easier to have that conversation with that person. And if you're not in a relationship, again, still have these same understandings, because likelihood that you're going to bring that into the relationship anyway. So you'll be better off being able to explain it to your partner as well. For me, I just want to give one.
Sure.
Yeah. So I know it stresses me out as well. So to prevent the dishes from piling up, I make sure it doesn't get to that stage. So therefore, I can kind of wash, as I go along, so it doesn't get to that stage where I'm stressed out. So yeah.
And in that same way, kind of recruiting your partner to help you out. So something, a tool that our pastor gave us, is kind of asking the person to help you with this. This is something that you're struggling with, and help me out by helping us keeping the dishes down to a level, but to help me out, as opposed to saying you're doing the dishes wrong. Think about how you then phrase it.
Yeah. Go on.
Clinically, again, we talk about using a lot more I statements. I feel stressed out when I notice that the dishes are stacking up. Can you help me not feel as stressed out? Can we think of a way together? Can we come up with a solution together to try and reduce my stress levels because of it? And then again, by giving the background as to how it's maybe developed there, kind of help somebody kind of have more empathy and sympathy towards it.
You're bang on. Not that I'm trying to qualify what you're saying, I just agree because it's true. In marriage, we want to be happier, which is one of the reasons why we would get married. It's a part of a sense of fulfillment. And in order for that to happen, there's two things that can happen, to be honest. And that is, you can either get married to suit yourself, which a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Or you can get married to see how much you can grow. And that growth means you have to be prepared. If you want that second, the latter means if you're looking for a relationship, and not dominion, right? And people who are looking for a relationship, they have to understand that they have to sacrifice parts of themselves. And this is partly an answer to Marvin's question. I know you put it out there. He's a friend of mine. He's got thick skin, so I'll put it out there. He says, I just can't fathom why one would choose to leave it there. And, and I'm like, if you're looking for a relationship, you need to use different questions. Out of all those other comments there, I'm like, oh gosh, you make me laugh.
I'm telling you, as small as it sounds, this dishes stuff is a real thing.
All right, let's go back to the dishes. This is what he says. In my capacity of a therapist, that's what I say. So you're saying the right thing, but practically I don't. But yeah, I see. He sees. Yeah, he gets it. So this is the thing. We've got that kind of working out to do before we put on that ring, even the first ring.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the groundwork, right?
Yeah. And that's for people who aren't married yet. That's one of the things that we would recommend that you do. To do a good. If I know some people might not want to do premarital counselling, but to really do the work before you say I do, because that really prepares you. I mean, our pastor, God bless him, he made us try and highlight as many differences as possible, because like being frank, a lot of experience that has come our way of people that we know in the community, they find the first year of marriage really hard. They think that it's going to make them happy, it's going to fix whatever's not going right in the relationship. They have these expectations that it's going to be one way, and they find themselves quite disappointed because there's a lot to digest, to process, to make sense. It's a steep learning curve. I know it's said that, marriage can be one of the toughest schools that you go to, you don't graduate from, it's a mirror. It is a mirror. It shows you who you are, and you are thrown, you can feel like you're thrown into it. And actually to try and do as much of that awareness building beforehand is really helpful. If you're in it, we can talk to what might be helpful. If you're in it already and you're struggling with it, we can talk to some of that at some point today.
Well, okay, so going back to happiness, we've learned today then that if you want to increase your chances of enduring happiness, then there's work to be done beforehand. But here we go, guys. I'm already married. So I need you to, and I don't know if you have it there. I'm partly putting you on the spot, but I think you can handle it, right? Just reminding the audience that my guests are professionals in the field of therapy. And so I guess I'm putting you to the test today. I'm already married. And so now I'm unhappy. It's been 10 years, say. What do you suggest for me now?
Well, what's making you unhappy?
I don't know.
Just this unfulfilling feeling.
It's unfulfilling. Yeah, I like that.
So one of the things that I guess we want to really drive home today is that marriage can't do that for you alone. And for us to shift that thinking, because like I said, I don't know how many times I came across young ladies who are trying to get the guy, trying to get married, and then they get there and then what? It can be a part of what makes you feel fulfilled, but it cannot solely do the fulfilling. And so one of the things that we would suggest is that we need to think about what else do you have going on in your life that we can maybe think about where you can get some extra fulfillment. I'm saying extra, but where you can feel that sense of fulfillment, because happy people can help make a happy marriage.
Wow.
And if you're not in a happy place, it's actually maybe as a person, it's maybe worth thinking about how do I improve my well-being?
Mm.
Because as you can imagine, if you're in a place that's not so positive, you might be more critical in your conversations with your partner. You might find it hard to notice the positive that actually is in your marriage. You know, so it is important to look to do the self-work.
That's powerful that you said that. Just to interject briefly, whenever we are supporting people, and you know, I'm a social worker, my wife's practically we do the same job, and when someone comes for marriage therapy, relationship therapy, or guidance, should I say, because I'm not a counselor. I mainly work with their personal issues. But people who are in a situation where their relationship is breaking down, they see them in a relationship and look at the issues that they have in the context of the two of them. Whereas sometimes, like what you're saying is, we're speaking about couples now, and you're saying the self-work.
Yeah. I mean, again, if we think about it, even before we get married, we have all of these goals that we want to achieve, whether it's financial goals, whether it's career goals, whether it's traveling, whether it's a fitness goal, etc. And those are all parts of being fulfilled. So when you are on the path of meeting those goals, and when you're married, that can obviously contribute to having a improved and happy relationship. It will improve your well-being, which then then be a part of that as well, as Steph was saying. Yeah.
And I guess you can do that in various ways. I think just the random tidbit we can drop here is, think about the things that are the things that you value, things that bring enjoyment, a sense of achievement, and think about how you can build upon that. So if, for example, it's lockdown season, so you can't go out to eat, but you like good food, do you like enjoying good food? Is it the taste of it? Is it the culinary efforts that have gone into it? If you value that, maybe thinking about branching into cooking those for yourself, developing that hobby. If you've got a career going on, a job, thinking about where it is you'd like your career to direction to go. Thinking about things that can give you a sense of value, to give you a well-rounded sense of fulfillment, as well as, and sometimes you might need to actually maybe get a self-help book. Maybe you need to actually book some time with a therapist, or with somebody, a spiritual leader, somebody that revered in your community, a faith leader. You need to book some time to actually now try and spend some time looking inwards. Because it's really important. I talk to, you don't have to be perfect coming into marriage. You don't have to be perfect in marriage. You don't have to have everything sorted out, but you need to be on that journey. You need to be taking those steps forward, to kind of look at your baggage as well. I know I entered into our relationship with a bit of baggage, and I'm happy to say that I've moved it along to now it's a smaller little carry on.
So I have a question on that briefly. How do you have counseling for about a year before you get engaged? And then did you have counseling before, like just during engagement?
Yeah, we had top-ups.
Yeah. So then how do you get, and this is it's a reflective question, I guess. It's how do you get married after having basically a year of counsel, roughly, I'm guessing, and then still have baggage?
I love it.
Sounds like an obvious question. You understand what I'm saying?
I love it.
Why did you not deal with stuff?
Why did it take so long?
Right.
I think because, part of it was because it was on and off, in the sense that our pastor was very thorough. So we'll do a session and he'll give us maybe 3 weeks gap. And then he'll give us another 2 sessions. And then, so it's probably because it was more spread out. And also it's because I think and this is me now personally saying, I think when it comes to the self, it's ongoing work.
Yeah.
I don't think people can get to a place maybe I might be wrong, but I don't think people can get to a place where it's all done and dusted. You know, I think it takes time, and it's okay for it to take time. And I think sometimes you might be ready for certain levels of the work that you're doing. You know, so I think there was the kind of surface skills that we were doing, and then there was the things that were rising for us that we needed to deal with. You know, and I think, like I said, our pastor was very thorough. I think he probably would do a similar job with other people too. But I think it really gave us a chance to really get to know each other.
Yeah.
And to the second part of the question about how can I still have baggage, I'll be honest, I had a complicated upbringing. I have had complicated experiences in the past, you know, and I'm going to say this. I love when we were training, we were together while we were doing our training.
Yeah.
And I love the cohort who I trained with, because they were the most realist people that I've met, because everybody comes with baggage. I think people can be so put together to come across really well, but we've got baggage, you know, and some of it is more complex than others. Some people might have more straightforward one, but I think in taking our time and building our self-awareness, I think it's helped us to not only be aware for our own relationship, but to be aware and also be comfortable to share aspects, you know. And so to answer your question, I'm complicated. I still
But so I mean, I guess what I was alluding to was that, and Michael, because you actually mentioned, you probably both do it, but Michael mentioned that he does some psychodynamic psychodynamic approach, which is like looking at the past. He's looking at someone's past, I guess, and see how it plays out in their future behavior. Is that
Yeah.
It's like, it's not possible. If it's not possible to then deal with our baggage in maybe a year of intense counseling, that means you're really saying, Michael, that we are destined to have some type of conflict in the future.
Yeah, I mean, yes. in the short term, yes, we will have some forms of conflict, but the more we understand what we've been through in the past, our experiences, past relationships with friends and family, abuse sometimes as well, that's happened in our lives, and how we've tried to understand what's happened and manage those things, has an impact on how we relate to others, how we relate to our spouse, our wives, our husbands, our partners, etc. And again, the better we understand ourselves, is the better we can make sense of the reason why I kind of lash out or storm out the house, etc. Once there's a moment of confrontation, because that's what some people do. The moment that there's a confrontation, etc., maybe what was happening in their household, what was learned, was that we kind of go to our separate rooms, so that we don't talk about things, etc. So we really need to understand the family dynamics around that as well.
There's no escape. There's no escape from the past, you know. If you want to get to the future, you have to go back, innit?
You have to go back. Yeah.
Man.
And it's not easy. It's not easy, but again, you know, eventually it's going to come up. So, you know, I'd rather, I guess, you know, would you like to be more in control about when it happens, rather it just being a kind of a surprise? Yeah.
I have a question here. Oh, is there another comment? I have a question here. I only wanted to look at the first part of it. What does happiness look like for you guys?
Okay.
You can ignore the rest.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, in trying to define happiness, because you guys honestly look 4 years happily married, and I guess happily is for married folk. When we're using the term happy or happily, it's not the same way you'd use it as if you were single. It's a different word meaning. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. What does happiness look like from? And I would like you to even, mix it up with your professional and personal hats.
Mm-hmm.
Wear the two at once. Yeah.
I think happiness, a part of the happiness that it looks like for us is being able to navigate conflict healthily.
Wow.
Because I think it's not realistic to think you won't have any difficulties.
If you don't see me looking, I'm making notes. Happiness is.
Oh, you put me on the spot. Okay, happiness is being able to navigate conflict healthily.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's just not realistic to think you won't find yourself in a situation where you disagree. You're two individual people coming together.
That's it.
Two complete people coming together. Our happiness for us is working towards life goals together.
Yeah.
Me and Mike, I think, since the beginning, have always been working towards our life goals together. And it's been enjoyable. It's been difficult. It's been nice to encourage one another. It is expanding our family by having a little one. It is doing things that we like together. It is providing each other what they need to stay happy. So Mike's a person that sometimes, actually, we both sometimes need me time, and so for us, that's a part of being happily married, being okay with at some point, if it's a good time, we might need some separate time, just to enjoy being in our own space, to give a chance to reflect, to process life, to do something silly, whatever it might be. For me, I like to do kind of masks and kind of spa-like activities. It's allowing us to practice self-care. It is about feeling close. One of the things that I think I really enjoy about our marriage is our intimacy, our closeness, both emotional and physical, but both emotionally, having those real heart-to-heart moments, really heart-to-heart talks.
Yeah.
And sometimes it involves talking about our childhood, our upbringing, and it just, it's really beautiful.
I think just on that subject, obviously, it allows us to become more close, understanding who each other is on a deeper level and not just a surface level. And that's what you want to get to as well. I want to understand what her childhood was like, what it was like growing up, and other aspects that may not want to talk about now. But I guess I'm talking about like your dancing background, etc.
Yeah. I used to be a dancer many moons ago.
Yeah. But yeah, it's that closeness. It's sharing life goals with each other. It's the freedom to just be transparent as well, be vulnerable as well. Knowing that no matter what happens, kind of she's got your back. We've got each other's back. So yeah.
And playfulness. We're quite playful.
Yeah. Playful, comedy, acting a fool. Yeah.
And this exists in the midst also of the differences that you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it ever felt like, have you ever been shocked by each other's differences? And that question is actually, maybe I should rephrase it. It's not an expose. I want people to see that you could be happily married and just have major differences. I'm guessing there must be, because I think you mentioned the dishes was a sign anyway. That with me, I grew up in a home where the dishes can wait till the end of the day. Juanita's like, you need to wash that up, man, right now. And so she's let's do it now. Just we're the same. Our setup and your setup is the same, and that lends to the grander differences between who we are, and that can breed conflict. And I'm asking an obvious question, even in the midst of that grand difference between you, it's not even a question, it's a statement. You still find that you're safe emotionally and still saying you're happy. Is that a fair statement?
And I'm nicking this from systemic thinking, being honest. When I'm working in therapy with people for difference, it's about helping people recognize those differences and celebrate them. There's a quote that I put up on Instagram not so long ago. I'm about to put up, I can't remember. But it talks about, I'm about to put up actually. It talks about marriage is two imperfect people coming together to learn to celebrate their differences. Learning to enjoy difference is not easy, but it's something that kind of shifting out and reframing difference to being like, okay, we're different in this respect. How can we capitalize it? How can we bring both our strengths to the table to benefit our unit?
And you have to stop. Sorry, Michael, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. You have to stop though and ask that question. What can we celebrate? And not just see the differences as the enemy.
I think another example for us is, I guess I can be a bit more detail oriented. So I can take a bit more time to make decisions. But there are some times where a decision needs to be made. So, Steph's someone, Steph is someone who can kind of help that along as well, because any decision that we make as a unit. So therefore, I don't just go off and do my own thing and then, she finds out a week later and vice versa. We kind of make joint decisions. So she kind of can help us come to a decision quicker. Whereas even though I look at some of the detail, sometimes we kind of need to realize our differences in that area as well.
And kind of also saying, I can move quick, but I can move too quick that I then miss things. And his skill in being able to notice the details, is amazing. It helps me see things that I might have missed, and so it's about recognizing how can we make it work together, because it's so easy. And I think maybe this is what we were experiencing during courting. It's so easy just to clash. Oh, Mike, can we not just do this? Oh, but Steph, But actually recognizing that we can make it, we can learn how to work together with this big, because that's a big difference, being honest. Work together to make it not only just work, but actually be something that we then capitalize on has just been amazing for us. And I think because we've had that success with that difference, I think it's helped us to have confidence that with other differences, by God's grace, God can help us to see how can we make it together, how God brought us two together. We firmly believe God brought us two together. And how can we fit well, our pastor used the analogy of two pieces of paper being stuck together. How can we make it work really well to help us to move forward for our purpose?
All right. So we're coming up to the hour mark, right? And I want to make sure we squeeze this in. So these are reflective questions I have for you. Short answers only.
Let's go.
That was a quick decision, bro. That was a quick one. All right, here we go. I am.
Oh.
Content.
Fulfilled.
I want.
To keep moving forward.
By the way, you don't have to answer any of them. Yeah. I want. Did you?
No, happiness.
I want happiness. I need.
Prolonged happiness.
Sorry, what was that, Michael? I want. What was
a continuous happiness.
I need.
His love and support.
God's grace.
I hope.
We keep going from strength to strength.
That we keep building.
I will.
Promise to always love you.
Oh, I promise to love you too.
I can.
do all things through Christ.
Ditto.
You lot, man. You warm me up. You warm me up, man. You guys warm me up. Seriously. And you gave me it's a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
Yeah.
Do you know something? I would love to have you back.
Thank you.
I'm gonna twist your arm live on TV and say, see you for a part 2, right? And it would be good in the near future to go into some more of the clinical aspects as well, because you guys, we've only just scratched the surface of your experience, and just look at some topics around relationships, marriage, singleness, that we could really just help people just get to deal with. Yeah, you're getting a request from my wife saying, come back.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's been warming. Please, and let me just put the banner up. Tell us again who. Oh, by the way, question. Can we come to you for marital support guidance therapy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. So I probably didn't explain it much at the beginning, but C Wellbeing Service is for mental health support, emotional wellbeing support, and relational support.
Yeah.
Is that a website?
It's in the works.
It's in the works. But we can get you on.
Look us up on Insta. And if you would like to seek some support, you can. I'm on maternity leave, so you can go through my husband. So you can email Michael at se.wellbeing.com.
CSE.
Yeah, SE dash.
So Michael at
SE dash wellbeing.com. And we can take it from there.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Yes. And I just want to thank you. Just to remind the audience, listen, if you need help, please contact these guys. If you don't know how to contact them, contact us, get us in the direct messages. We would direct you, but please visit these guys. This is what they do. And we just scratch the surface. I want to thank you for coming on. We will keep you up 2, 3, and 4, and 5.
Hey.
To help us navigate this, guys. Please, guys, listen, we're on tomorrow with Eddie Hippolyte Deep. Check our Instagram on This Is Marriage UK for the poster, so you know what time. It's tomorrow evening at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'll double check it, but it's tomorrow evening. Please tune in. It's going to be deep. You know, Eddie's deep already. He's so poetically deep. A talent I wish I had. So we'll see you tomorrow night, and then we also have a show on Tuesday night as well. But whilst we're here, thank you, Michael and Stephanie.
Thank you.
You're up nicely, so I'm going to skip upstairs and see what I can do. God bless you all, everyone. Take care.
All right, take care. See you.